We are here on the site of the Powell River Aquatic Research Station, which is one of the research facilities that is operated under the Cumberland Mountain Research Center at Lincoln Memorial University. We also have a laboratory, the Rainforest Science Cooperative Laboratory in Belize, where we also conduct research. We are pleased this morning to be involved in a cooperative effort here on the Powell River that will involve a release of freshwater mussel species back into the river. This is a research project and effort that is being done by Virginia Tech University in combination with Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And Lincoln Memorial University is very pleased to be part of this, to be hosting this event, and also to have an opportunity for our students to be involved in the activity that's going to happen here today with the freshwater mussels.
The process begins in the laboratory, and we grow the mussels in the laboratory. Our laboratory is the Freshwater Mollusk Conservation Center in Blacksburg, Virginia. It's located at Virginia Tech University. It's a university facility. It's part of the Department of Fish and Wildlife Conservation there. And so what we do is we rear the mussels based on their life cycle, which requires a fish host. And we infest the fish host with their babies, their larvae, put them on the fish host in the laboratory. And once they're attached to the fish host, they metamorphose into a juvenile and drop off in the fish tanks, and we collect them and count them, and then we put them in culture containers and grow them out. And so when they drop off, they're very small. They're about 1/4 of a millimeter in size, about 250 microns, okay? So very small animals, almost microscopic. But once we collect them, we count them, then we begin to grow them out. And we'd like to get them to about 20 millimeters in size, because at that size they're large enough for us to put a tag on them, and then we can put them out in the river, and with that tag we can use the tag for monitoring how they're doing, to track their survival and their growth. Restoring the native fauna, the species that belong here. We're putting an additional species back into the river that was probably lost a couple of decades ago. So bringing back the natural fauna that occurred here. So that's one of the important benefits. And then also, you know, there's not too many rivers like the Powell that are free-flowing and have the natural conditions like the Powell. So this is one of the few places where we can begin to build up, restore these populations of mussels to meet the recovery criteria of the recovery plans for some of these species. There's not too many places that we can actually put these mussels to meet some of those criteria. So what we do is we just introduce some of the river water, the buckets that they're currently in, and that just helps acclimate them to the temperature of the river. And that'll happen for about 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Once they're acclimated, then we'll bring them down to the river, put them on the sides of the banks, and then select the locations that we're going to stock the mussels at.
We took handheld GPS units, Garmin's, and we would determine the substrate by either looking down, and if it was too deep, then we would sample the bottom with just going down, filling it with our feet or our hands, determining what the substrate was in several classes. You have it all the way from fines all the way up to complete slab bedrock. And we would take the GPS units, and every time the habitat would change, we would make a new point. And this was turned into the GPS data that we collected, was put onto a GIS map and inlaid into Google Earth. And this is done to determine what kind of species composition would make up where the habitats are, different habitats, different species. And it was really good. It's a lot of, the data's preliminary, but it's very good for any study that goes on. You can use that to determine where to introduce species as we are today, and it has a bunch of good things to follow afterwards.
From a scientific point of view, instead of just releasing things without any kind of indication as to what that animal is, we like to tag them. We have a shellfish tag, which they use in the oyster industry, and we super glue it, put it with adhesive on the side of the mussel. So when we come back at later times and we search for these mussels that we've released and we find some of them, we can get individual growth data from those animals.
Well, these populations can be abundant locally on the gravel shoals, and they're filter feeders. And so they filter the water, and by filtering the water, they make it clear, they make it cleaner, and they also serve as a food base for other animals in the river, like muskrats and otters, and there's fish that eat freshwater mussels. The other thing that they do is they help oxygenate the shoals. They, in effect, work like an earthworm, aerating and moving up and down in the soil to help oxygenate and enrich the soils. Mussels do the same thing in the gravel shoals. So by doing that, that has a benefit to the aquatic insects, which in turn are fed by the fish, eat the insects, and then some of the smaller fish are eaten by some of the game fish like bass, walleye, sauger, muskie that fishermen like to catch in the river.
It means everything, really. Now, in this time, going out to try and find a job or to get into graduate school or anything after undergraduate, it's basically required for you to do something. And having this here so close to us and such a good research option it's incredible. There's so much that can be learned and so much we can do for the river. It's a pretty clean river as of now still, but there's still much more work that can be done, and it was definitely a great experience to come out here and work on something like this. A project that's going to be continued for many years to come, I'm sure.